Welcome back to the Bums in the Bleachers podcast. We are back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're back because Cubs baseball is back. MLB baseball is back. We are coming up on opening day weekend. I could not be more excited. After the Bears, lost in the playoffs, my brain shut off and just immediately went into baseball mode and was just full on, just ready to go into the season. So we're here.
Yeah, we are here. And it's nice to have baseball back that is actually going to matter this week. Excited to be back, John. Happy to be doing this with you for another year. So, looking forward to talking all things Cubs.
Is this year 3 or 4? It's year 4, I think.
4, yeah, I think so, because we
did like the tail end of what was it, 20?
Yeah, midway through 23 we started, and then all 24, all 25. Yeah.
Yep. There we go. So we'll call it 4. I mean, we put in some work. So we're getting ready. We're getting ready for this weekend. Just talked about it on the pregame before we jumped on here. Mike is, of course, going to opening day weekend. What? It wouldn't be a Cubs opening day if the Praz Master was not in attendance. And Mike, are you going tarps off? I mean, I don't know what the weather's going to be like, but I don't think it matters.
I think you know the answer to that question. I would, like you say, of course I'm going to be there. I'm basically at this point that old rant of Lee Elia talking about Cubs fans with probably a bunch of words we can't say anymore. I fit that demographic pretty well at this point, we'll say.
Yeah, I mean, I look forward to it. I mean, I look forward to, and I'm kind of jumping the gun here because I might give away as we get into the Flying W's, Flying the L's, but I'm excited that Marquee has moved back to Hulu Live TV. It's also going to be available on Amazon Prime. So there are multiple ways to actually watch Cubs games again, which I think, dare I say it? Thank you, Tom. Does that feel? It feels wrong to say, but
we'll see. Because Marquee, there were some weird things with them over this past offseason where they cut a bunch of people, and we'll see. I mean, this is kind of like the era of like regional sports networks kind of fading away. Marquee still holding strong for now, but I do wonder what the possibility of not having a baseball season might hold for them if that's the case.
It's very true. And I think like there's, obviously some bigger discussions about, broadcasting and to your point, the regional broadcasting side where I think MLB might be getting away from that and pushing towards, something else, obviously. But,
right.
We'll see what happens. We gotta worry about the 2026 year first, because 2027 looms and we don't know what that's going to bring us, obviously. But yeah, I'm stoked, man. I mean, baseball's here. We're coming off of, the World Baseball Classic, which I always look when that comes on. I mean, every 3 or 4 years? I can't remember the timeline of it, but every time.
Every 3 years, I believe it is now.
Okay. Yeah.
It wasn't always consistently 3 years, but I think now it is every 3 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, it is probably the closest thing we got to I think like, the Olympics when US beat Canada in the final, right? Like that games that meant something in March are hard to come by. Cause I mean, I don't know about you. I watched some spring training games, but I think like once it gets to like the third or fourth inning of a game, I'm like, all right, if there's something else on, there's March Madness going on right now. Like I'm going to switch, right? I'm going to watch something else.
Right. Once you get the full lineup of guys without any last names on the back of their jerseys, I changed the channel at that point.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just, you're not seeing, all the starters, you're seeing split squads. You're not seeing pitchers, that are throwing their best stuff. Sometimes they're working on, on things. I mean, we saw Jameson Taillon maybe a couple weeks ago. He got shellacked for like 10 runs against the Dodgers. And you got to take those outings with a grain of salt. So I'm not going to get, upset about those kind of outings because for all we know, like he's tinkering, right? He's trying something new or, and that's what spring training's for. But the WBC is so much fun. You get so many guys that are fighting for country, specifically in countries that are not the US. the pride that comes into it, when they're playing those series is just tremendous. And I mean, it makes they feel like playoff games, it's amazing. I mean, what were your thoughts of this year's WBC?
I think you hit the nail right on the head that, for some of these guys that it's a little different when you're around a bunch of guys who kind of embrace the same culture as, the rest of the team does, as opposed to kind of the monotony of the dog days of a regular season. I think about guys like, hell, that Team Italy was like the darling of the whole tournament with the espresso machine in the dugout and Jack Caglione kissing everyone after a home run. That was
right.
That was
and
pretty awesome
none
to
of them
see.
actually being born like Italian born.
This is true. Yeah.
They were essentially the B squad for the USA team.
Correct. Yeah. Which, look, it's hard to make Team USA as it is, but and then Venezuela and all the Latin countries really showed out. You had the bat flips by Ronald Acuna, and you had the moments of as we'll get to, our boy Daniel Palencia closing it out in the biggest game of the tournament, and a couple more games before that as well too. So it was exciting to watch. Oh, I think you're mute. You might be muted, or
yep, I'm muted. Sorry.
Okay.
I know you mentioned Italy because that was a very surprising team that continued to advance. They got hot. I'm jokingly calling them the B squad, but these are a lot of them. They're full of prospects, right? That are, hopefully going to be coming up in the near future. I think there were a couple on the White Sox, which I think our other Chicago brethren could get really excited about. I know there was an injury to one of them.
Antonacci and Kyle Teal, yeah.
Kyle Teal, I know got hurt, but
right.
I think there's some excitement, right? You get to see some of these prospects that are maybe playing a little bit more loosely. Right. I know we saw, our guy, Mark DeRosa make a couple blunders, throughout the WBC, and we can get into that as well. But also, he had the guy that obviously assassinated Osama bin Laden come into the locker room, and that was kind of like, I felt like a really weird moment, like to have like, I got like the seriousness of it, but like you're watching like Team Italy, like with an espresso machine, having fun, and like in USA didn't seem as fun this year. No. It felt like it was all business.
No, it didn't, and it's just it did seem like it was certainly lacking a lot of personality on Team USA. And like, I don't know if they're maybe leaning into a direction that like, the USA hockey team kind of was, of just being full on America F yeah. But, yeah. I don't know. It was, when that's your whole personality, it's a little different, it's a little unappealing to some, I could say.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was great to like, create some seriousness, but I also think like, having fun with it. Honestly, I probably would have brought in, team members from Team USA hockey team, the gold winning team,
well,
right? I would have tried to get Jack Hughes.
Have a little bit of crossover, because what was it? The final game, all of the guys on Team USA were wearing like the USA hockey sweaters, which I thought was pretty cool. PCA rocking the Jack Hughes sweater, which, that's awesome. Like, the guy who scores the biggest goal in USA hockey history, at least since like 1980,
Very true. But I would have maybe had them come in, if they're all celebrating, right. That would have been like the surprise. Like
it's hard because they're in the middle of their NHL season. Yeah. So
that's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's, it's super great. It's amazing. It's great for the sport. I think it gets, young fans excited. I don't know if you saw this, but I think it was, I forgot which country did this. Maybe it was Venezuela. Schools were off. They let out early, so they can watch the WBC game, which, it's so cool when you get to see something like that. Cause I feel like you don't really get that in the US. You get, I don't even think you get it for the World Series, to be honest. You might have like some places that let out work earlier. People are taking PTO, but It just feels like this big celebration of baseball. One of the other, I was asking teams that surprised, Italy did. One team that surprised me in kind of the other direction was Team Japan, having an earlier exit than I think I expected. What were your thoughts on Team Japan? I know we had Seya out there, and we'll talk about Seya and what happened there. But
yeah, Team Japan, you kind of maybe don't realize it because of like all the high-end talent here, but I think the known talent that was on that team, it was maybe a little bit of a top-heavy roster with like, you have Shohei Ohtani, obviously, and you have Yoshin. Well, actually, no, the Yamamoto was kind of limited, I want to say, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And then it's, Seiya's a great player too. But after that, like it does kind of drop off to like some of the little bit unrecognizable names, not to say that they're bad by any means, because, baseball is a damn religion in Japan at this point. But, it like they did dominate in the last WBC, and it didn't feel like they had a roster built to do that this past year when, it wasn't like the crazy amount of talent that they had. I don't think.
Well, I mean, it definitely was disappointing to see the U.S. Lose. This is a second WBC in a row where they've lost in the finals. And I think it's a more challenging tournament, and I think it's part of what makes it so exciting is there's pool play, and then it's one and done. Right? Like it's not like a World Series, divisional, or championship series. Right. You're not going to get best of 5 or 7, or even 3. Like some of the obviously the wild card games. But I think it's it's tough to in a one and done situation. It is challenging. So you kind of maybe I'll take it with a grain of salt. And I don't know if the U.S. Took it as serious as I think they should have. To be honest with you, I think like the fact that you didn't have you didn't line up your rotation in the way that would have allowed God, I'm drawing a blank here. Pirates pitcher, Pirates ace.
Skeens.
Brain fart. Skeens, thank you. I was about to say Livy Dunn's boyfriend. You didn't have him lined up for the final game, and I know he pitched the game before. You didn't have Tarek Skubal, which I think the Detroit Tigers might have done some injustice to the U.S. and not lining it up in that way either, or maybe they didn't work, hand in hand to allow that to happen. They didn't have Matthew Boyd down the stretch. The Cubs pulled him early too, and I think there was, whether it's innings limits or you're wanting to ramp a guy up or down leading up to opening day and lining that up. Obviously, that's going to take precedent. I get that, and maybe the WBC needs to happen earlier in spring training then, if that's the case, so you can allow guys to really ramp up during the WBC and be ready for their own seasons. But they didn't have their aces, where and maybe Venezuela, I mean it was Rodriguez, wasn't it, who pitched
Eduardo Rodriguez, and
he's
he's no ace really.
He's no ace, but I mean, man, he pitched incredibly well. The U.S. offense looked very sluggish over the last few games. They kind of scraped by before they got to Venezuela.
Right. They were lucky to get to past pool play when Italy kind of had to save their asses. Yeah, right, exactly. The starting Goldschmidt and some other backup on that team, like basically instead of like treating it basically like a getaway day. Like, Mark, come on, this isn't the regular season, dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he also had said before the game, like, oh, we're in, like he had already assumed that they had advanced, not knowing the rules and not knowing that runs mattered either. Because they looked at the aggregate score and pool play, and at the end of the day, it didn't end up mattering anyways, because Italy, pounced on Mexico and they were able to get the U.S. through with that. And, Mexico obviously really struggled offensively against Italy, so they wouldn't have had the runs to get there anyway. But it was just, it was disappointing to watch USA lose. I thought this was the year because I thought they had a squad. I mean, that that team was stacked, but I do think like the pitching side probably could have lined up a little bit better in their favor.
Definitely, yeah.
Well, I know one of the silver linings, our boy,
Danny,
beginning of spring training, Jesse Rogers bluntly asked Craig Counsell if he was going to be the closer. And for as calculated as Craig Counsell is, Craig said yes, he's going to be the closer right away, even before like anything, even before any questions could be answered. He went right in and said he's the closer.
That's my buddy Peter, who he always says that when we're hanging out. Touch time. I don't know, just some silly thing he does. But thank you for tuning in, Peter.
But yeah, I mean, he was given the closer role pretty early in spring training. He pitches for Team Venezuela. He dominates in, you know, his stints for Venezuela. The Cubs told Venezuela that he wasn't allowed to pitch in the final game because they didn't want him going back to back unless it was a safe situation, which it ended up being a safe situation because Venezuela scored in the 8th inning. Or was it the top of the 9th, I believe?
No, it was technically a home game for Venezuela, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So
well,
either
it was
the 8th,
it was the prior inning, right? And it set him up for it. So he just goes 5 games, 5 innings pitched, no earned runs, 9 strikeouts. And the thing that I thought was really exciting to see is how he overpowered star hitters. You know, he overpowered Kyle Schwarber. You know, I want to say he mowed down Bryce Harper as well, if I'm not mistaken. You know, and I thought he was going to get a chance to look at Alex Bregman until Alex Bregman got pulled in that game for Gunnar Henderson. So, and he got Henderson out in I think a couple pitches, but he looked great. I mean, he looked dominant, and I wonder if this is going to carry through to the regular season now, because it's not like this is spring training, like a normal spring training, right? Where you're kind of mowing down AAA, AA, you know, spring training invitees, you know, earlier in spring training. You're not mowing guys like that. You're not mowing down guys like that. You're mowing down legit superstars, and not only that, but superstar lineups. Like you're having every batter is not a free pass. You know what I mean? Like every batter is going to be a tough challenge, and he looked electric.
Yeah, no, he embraced the moment. He was dominant. I tweeted this the night of like the final game. I'm like, all right, Venezuela has the lead. Screw it. I'm rooting for Daniel Palencia because, you know, I know that, you know, this is going to be a huge thing for him that could be awesome going into the season for him. And I give the caveat too that if it gets to Pete Crow Armstrong, I'm going to be really conflicted with who I'm rooting for there. But no, I mean, he shoved that whole tournament, and, you know, he really kind of made a name for himself.
You know, and the thing is, like, I wonder what this like does in terms of confidence. You know, like I wonder if this is going to bleed into the regular season where, you know, he was told by his manager again at the beginning of spring training when pitchers and catchers basically reported that he was going to be the guy. And then he is the guy for Venezuela, and he helps them win this championship game. Again, mowing down like superstar players. I hope this is the year that he ascends now that he knows the job is secure. And man, again, he looked electric. I mean, it was great to see him so dominant. Yeah.
I'll get into it more when we get into Cubs specific predictions, because he's kind of featured in one of them for me. But you know, he, you know, like you said, there were no easy outs that he faced, and he looked as dominant as any pitcher did in this tournament.
Yeah. I think one of the other things that was really great to see, I thought you saw Bregman played, I think, pretty decent. You saw PCA have a pretty strong WBC. He had I think what was it in the game against Italy where they were down like 8-4. He almost single-handedly brought that team, you know, back to a tie.
He did everything he could, to put that team on his back.
You know, RBI, you know, what was it, RBI double? He had a 2-run home run. or no, he had a 2-run home run and I think a solo home run. Yeah.
That's
So,
right.
I mean, he 3 RBIs and, the final 3 innings of that game to try to inch them closer, which again, the runs matter too. I think that's the other side of it too. Even though they lost, runs had mattered.
Exactly.
But it was great to see some of our guys actually play pretty well. I know, was there anybody else, I guess, any other highlights that you want to mention before we move on to maybe the lowlights of the WBC?
I guess, these teams didn't really go anywhere, but it was pretty cool to see, like, some of the not exactly traditional baseball countries and having their fans kind of get into it, like Australia and Czechia and God, what was the other one that was like Great Britain, I guess, that, like, there is a pretty big baseball culture for those countries as well too. And it's love or hate Rob Manfred. I mean, this does help kind of grow the game into those markets. So
yeah. Well, obviously there was a low light in terms of what it meant for Cubs baseball this year. This is no surprise because this is, this happens every year. Happened a little bit earlier than I thought it would have, but Seiya Suzuki is already on the IL, and again, hopefully it's a shorter stint. It's retroactive to the time that he got hurt in the WBC, and then when he came back to the Cubs, the Cubs team. But what does this mean for you? Are you concerned? Do you think that because there's some decent depth on the Cubs this year, that this is a non-issue? Obviously this can bleed into what we're going to discuss talking through the opening day roster, but
right.
Are you concerned? Do you think this is going to be something that maybe lingers? Are you okay with it? Like, are you mad that it happened at the WBC?
I think a lot of people were pretty mad that it happened at the WBC. The Cubs were a team that was pretty well represented at the WBC, and I think the odds kind of were that at least one guy would suffer some kind of injury in that. And, it was only one. Granted, Seya is a really damn important piece to this team. He was probably their best hitter in October this past year. And he, had coming off of probably the best year of his career, at least in the U.S. This is, not an insignificant loss. What I will say is that if you take the Cubs at their word, and it's hard to really do that over the past few years because they have a little bit of a history of misdiagnosing how long guys are going to be out for. We saw it with Nico Horner a couple of years ago. We saw it with Miguel Amaya a little bit before he came back and then immediately went back on last year. The encouraging thing is that Seya did continue with baseball activities as soon as he got back to Arizona. Didn't get into any game action. Like I say, if you take the Cubs at their word, I would imagine he's not out that long and that, like, it doesn't really impact them too much. We'll get into it later, but they have a fairly easy schedule to start the season. So, I think they should be able to, do okay without him for the time being. But, like, I guess my big concern is that we did see in 2023, he didn't open the season with the team and he struggled pretty mightily, like, when coming back. And it kind of took until around like August for him to really turn it on. I guess that's my bigger concern, is not what's going to happen during the time that he's out, but what kind of hitter are we going to get from Seiya Suzuki when he comes off the injured list?
I think that's where I would be the most concerned as well. I think, in all honesty, if it were my choice and I'm the Cubs, I'm telling, out of any player that was going to play in the WBC, he would have been last on the list for me to play. And a lot of it is because of the previous injury history. I think Bregman might have been second last, just because I think big prize, free agent in the offseason, wanting to protect, and thankfully he came out unscathed. I think it was good for PCA. I think for him to be around, other superstars and, seeing how guys work, for as bad as Aaron Judge was in the WBC, I still think it's good to play with a guy like that is pretty revered amongst his team, where being a captain for the New York Yankees it is a very rare thing. And for the Yankees to have him as their captain, it says a lot of who he is as a person, his character, his work ethic. I think Anthony Rizzo, our guy, has spoken incredibly high of Aaron Judge and his time playing with New York. So I think it's good that PCA got the exposure. So I think I was fine with him. I think Palencia, obviously, and maybe I'm saying it in retrospect because, hindsight's 2020 and he had a great, he had a great run.
Something, Palencia was kind of like the guy going into the WBC that I was the most kind of concerned for, just because he throws as hard as he does. And I was hoping, secretly, I was kind of hoping either Venezuela had an early exit or they had a lot of blowout wins where he wouldn't have been required to come in and pitch. But I mean, I'm not upset that he shined as bright as he did in the WBC. And, thankfully he got out of it unscathed.
Yeah. So, but again, I think playing for country means so much to a lot of these guys that I don't blame Seya for wanting to do it. I think just if I'm the Cubs, I'm saying we would prefer that you didn't. And maybe they did tell him that. And he was like, well, I'm going to do it anyway, because it's country. Or maybe they didn't say anything at all, but, I think that's where I'm concerned to getting back to what your point was, is that the ramp up for him after an injury typically takes longer than I think some other guys. I think he's going to be out maybe a week or two, supposedly is what, they're kind of outlining. But I think he's probably going to have to get some at bats somewhere in AAA, to kind of get back up to speed. And then also you're kind of he's coming back in April where the weather's still cold. He's not, I don't think he's going to be as loose. He's going to feel tighter, especially coming back from an injury, those muscles are tighter. So maybe they make this longer than projected and they really do, they do the job of slowly ramping him up. But I do think that, the Conforto signing obviously means something now, which I didn't know if he was going to make the team or not. And I know you wanted to get into that. I think you got Matt Shaw, who was obviously playing a lot of right field this spring training, and they feel good with him being the regular everyday starter. I think you got Moises Ballesteros, who, hit the ball pretty well at the end of last year, and he obviously was projected to be the DH. So I think they have some decent depth that allows them to take it slowly with Seiya Suzuki. They're not going to have to rush him back. But I do worry about the ramp up, to your point.
For sure. I will say, I just in general, I feel bad for Seya on a personal level, because if you saw early in the WBC games, especially in Japan, the fans, he was probably the second most popular hitter in that lineup among the Japanese fans. They had a whole chant for him and everything. And I remember seeing on Twitter, a lot of Cub fans were we need to get this sort of thing going at Wrigley this year for him if he gets off to as hot a start as he did last year. And going into the hot start he did last year, he got through spring training okay last year, and it was a lot softer of a landing for him last year going into the season because he could be the full-time DH with Tucker in right. Now you have more responsibility with him going back out to right field and fielding there every day, which it's not exactly the most, stable glove out there either. So, we'll see how it all plays out. And I guess one other thing to add too, with what's the term I'm looking for? ABS, with the ABS coming in. Like he was the guy who like kind of got screwed the most on taking pitches in previous seasons. Now they have ABS in, like this was shaping up to be like a possibly another step forward for him.
Yeah.
It's a shame
Well,
that like that's going to have to be delayed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's talk about the opening day roster, right? I mean, I'm going to pull up. This is from Fangraphs. This obviously is projecting, the lineup, and I don't think this is going to be obviously the batting order, but this will be the everyday lineup for the Chicago Cubs with some of their platoon players, and then obviously looking through the starting rotation, the setup guys and middle relievers and potential bench as well too. So, we know Dansby Swanson is entrenched in shortstop as well as Bregman at third. Nico's obviously a staple. Ian Happ, maybe his last year as a Cub, but
Right.
he's going to be in left field, full time every day. We know PCA obviously is going to be playing center field. Michael Bush has secured his first base spot, even though we're probably not going to see him against lefties still.
You don't know about that because there's what right-handed option can play first base now that Tyler Austin's out.
Probably Ballesteros, I would think.
We haven't seen much of Ballesteros, and he's only like 5'8", I want to say. I don't know if you want a guy that short playing. Well, and he's a left-handed hitter too.
So oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. So,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess it's a good point. So maybe you are going to see more. Maybe they are trusting him a little bit more, which, I mean, maybe Craig is tired of hearing us bitch on this podcast about, not letting him hit lefties. But, you've got Matt Shaw, who's going to be manning right field right now. I think they told, what's his name? McCormick, that he's not going to make the team.
Right.
You've got Dylan Carlson. Looks like that was a guy I know that you really wanted to see make the team.
Oh yeah.
So it looks like he will be on the opening day roster.
My great hope for Dylan Carlson, it's probably not realistic, but I've long been a critic of Ian Happ, and the one thing I will say is that like if they find a way to have Ian Happ only hit lefty and only face right-handed pitching this season, you could maybe make a pretty good platoon with Carlson and Happ because Carlson does hit better from the right side and against lefties. He's a switch hitter as well. So, I mean, again, don't know how realistic that is when you have a guy in Happ who, whether I like it or don't like it, he does have quite a bit of, pull on that roster with him being the longest tenured guy and a leader of that team. But I do wonder if that's the sort of thing that might happen. Like maybe say, we get to June and Ian Happ is in one of his, elongated slumps.
2-month slumps.
Yeah. Maybe you consider doing that.
I guess we'll see. But I mean, I will tell you that I'm feeling really good about the starting rotation as is. You've got Matthew Boyd, who's going to be the opening day starter. That feels really great and well-deserved after, his performance last year. And, I know he struggled at the end in the playoffs because they obviously were using him a lot more. And that was a career high in innings. But, it well-deserved for Matthew Boyd to be the opening day starter this year. You've obviously got Shota Imanaga, who exercised his player option and is coming back and will be in the lineup. I think that might be a little bit more just due to financial reasons. I mean, you're paying the guy 20-some million. You're not going to use him as a middle reliever at this point. But I think for a number 4 or 5 starter, I think he suits, and fits in pretty well there. You've got Jameson Taillon, and I think I want to say this is the last year of his deal as well.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken.
Last year for JMO. Yep.
And then you've got, newly acquired Edward Cabrera, and then, Cade Horton in his second year, who finished incredibly strong at the end of last year and, got some Cy Young votes too. So, I feel, the rotation is solid, and this is not including guys that could potentially jump up into, starting roles if needed. You still got Colin Ray. You've got Ben Brown, who could potentially, fill in some starts.
At some
You've
point,
got
we're going to get Justin Steele back.
Justin Steele's coming back. You've got Jordan Wicks, still in the minors. You still got oh man, I'm drawing a blank right now.
Jackson Wiggins.
Jackson Wiggins. Javier Assad just got option to, so he still had some options left, and he was the odd man out. So I mean, you've got about 8 or 9 guys that can start games for you, which we talked about it in pods previously, but it's going to be so important to have that kind of depth with guys like Edward Cabrera, who hasn't pitched more than 130, 150 innings in any year. You've had Matthew Boyd, who's coming off a career high in innings. You've got Cade Horton coming back from injury. You've got Justin Steele coming back from injury. You got Imanaga, who gives up, who's going to give up probably like 30 bombs this year. The way that he's going.
We'll see about that. That was, he did spend some time on the IL last season, and the case has been made by some that I don't know that I necessarily agree with it, but the case has been made by some that, he never fully really recovered after that. We'll see how it goes.
Hasn't looked great in spring training.
I check out
WBC didn't look great.
Well, he didn't pitch in the WBC.
Oh, I thought he did.
No.
Sure?
I'm positive he did not pitch for Team Japan. If you look at his last 2 starts, by the way, was actually did okay. He pitched today against the Yankees, went 5 innings, only allowed 2 runs against a lineup as stacked as that Yankees lineup is. Like, they had all their starters in there with Judge and Bellinger and Ben Rice and Grisham. 2 runs in 5 innings, I'll take that. And then I think the last time out, he went like 4 1/3 and allowed like only 1 against the Angels. So I get the concern for Shota, but like, he, at least going into the regular season, he has looked pretty good the last few starts.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know if I don't know. I don't know if I have the full confidence in Imanaga, but we'll see. I mean, I think you've got a pretty good bullpen too. I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't even get to. You got Carson Kelly, obviously, as the catcher, and Amaya coming back too. And then I think we'll see Alcantara sitting on the bench the majority of the year because he won't get playing time from Craig, but at least he'll be called up a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, bullpen looks good. I think you got Palencia, as we spoke about earlier. I think Ben Brown could be an interesting piece in the back half of the bullpen as well, too.
It was just announced today he will be on the major league roster to start the season and in the bullpen, and that'll be encouraging. He's had a good spring. He's apparently developed a changeup to go along with his fastball and knuckle curve.
It's like a sinker change, I think.
Right. Yeah. So, hopefully good things to come from Ben Brown, because, he, aside from maybe Cade Horton, like, I know the lows have been low, but he is like one of the higher upside pitchers on this Cubs staff.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that I've always really liked. I mean, I really want the guy to succeed. I think he has electric stuff.
If I remember right, I think you at one point compared him to Mark Pryor, which is high praise.
He kind of, I think I think early on he kind of looked the part. I think we talked about, I was at a game when he pitched in Milwaukee, and he had, no hitter going into the 7th or 8th inning of that game.
Was there too?
He was dominant, and I think you can see the upside and you can see the snippets of what he can be. I think this third pitch is going to allow him to be a really strong reliever, and I don't know if he will be a starter, at this point yet. I think he's going to have to develop a 4th pitch at some point, but I think his stuff is electric. And I mean, if he could get this sinker to really work, man, I think he could be a really interesting piece. But I mean, we'll get into the predictions later. But yeah, I mean, how are you feeling about the rest of the lineup? How are you feeling about the bullpen? I know you were excited about the rotation, but any other thoughts here?
I think as far as the bullpen goes, I mean, it's a lot of turnover from last season, but also last year's bullpen was also a lot of turnover from the previous season. And, last year's bullpen was really damn good. I think at this point, like, coming off the WBC that Palencia had, we feel good about him. And I will say that I'm more confident in some of the newer pieces than I am in maybe some of the returning pieces, like Caleb Thielbar coming off of the year that he had where he was really damn good.
Yeah.
I do wonder, like, at his age, if he can replicate that. We'll see. But also, I'm always happy to see that they actually made a commitment to keeping a lefty in the bullpen when the first 2 years of this podcast, they didn't really do that much. And I banged the drum very hard for that. So, I'm encouraged by what I've seen from Phil Maton. I like that we have, multiple guys that throw really hard in Jacob Webb and Hunter Harvey. That it remains to be seen what'll happen. But, I think you have a lot of guys in that bullpen who, it was discouraging that the Cubs didn't really make much of an effort to re-sign Brad Keller. I do think you have a lot of guys, though, that are probably in the same boat as where Brad Keller was going into last season, that have the tools that I think could work on this team. And, especially with how good you still have it with this defense, with, if you can produce a ground ball rate of about 40%, you're probably going to get a lot of outs out of those ground balls with, Dansby and Nico up the middle. And I mean, hell, even Bush and Bregman on the corners too.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's talk Cubs 2026 predictions. I'm going to put this ticker up here too for anyone who's listening and wants to jump in, but feel free to add your hot takes in the comments if you have any. But Praz and I are going to go over maybe some hot takes, maybe not so hot takes, but
Peter, if you're still watching, Peter, I know you have plenty of hot takes, so feel free. This is your calling right now, and I'm talking. Well, baloney too if you're still on here too. But there's two guys named Peter in these comments that I recognize. But yeah, so go ahead whenever you feel like it.
All right. My first hot take, and maybe it's not a hot take, but the Cubs will have the best defense in all of baseball this year, coming off of your last comment here, and they will have 5 Golden Gloves coming from the team this year.
Okay, I like that. I'm trying to think. This past season, it was Hap, PCA, Nico Horner. That might have been the 3. I think that
Matt Boyd.
I think Matt Boyd was deserving of it, but I
thought Matt Boyd won it.
I think it was Logan Webb of the Giants who won it.
Oh yeah, you're right. Let's see, Cubs Gold Glove winners in 2025. They had PCA, Ian Happ, and Nico Horner. Correct. So you had all 3. Correct. Right. So I'm going to say they're going to have 2 more this year. I'm going to say Nico Horner will win it again. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say Dansby Swanson bounces back from his injury plague season last year and wins the Gold Glove again.
Okay.
I'm going to say you get one again from Ian Happ because left field is pretty easy to win.
Right.
And he's got the reputation already. I'm going to say PCA wins the Gold Glove again. And then I'm going to say that because of how great Dansby will be this year, I think Alex Bregman might win a Gold Glove this year.
Interesting. Okay.
I think Swanson can cover a lot of ground that frees up, maybe some different positioning on the left side of the diamond that maybe will allow Bregman to shine again.
Okay. Bregman has been a good third baseman. He did win 1 Gold Glove when he was in Houston.
He did. Yep.
24. Yeah, I could see that happening. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Honestly, if we get another year of Matthew Boyd leading pitchers and pickoffs like he did last season, I don't think that's something that can be ignored for Gold Glove
Yeah.
consideration. I like I said, I honestly think he should have won the Gold Glove for pitchers last year and didn't. Yeah, that's a good way to go. I wish that I could include Michael Busch in that too, because I feel like he's become a really good defensive first baseman. I think it's going to be hard to do so when you're competing with you're competing for that same award with Matt Olson, who has won it multiple times at this point. I think he's a platinum glove winner too. So
Yeah.
little rough. I guess, you know what? Maybe it might be tough for Bregman too, with Matt Chapman being in the National League as well.
Okay. Yeah. I have Bush maybe not so much just for the reason that, we were just talking about. Will he get enough starts to
Right.
To really not just qualify? I think he'll qualify, obviously, but like, will he get enough starts where the numbers accumulate, right? Because I think when he's out there, like you can see defensively, he is very strong. But I think if you saw it over 150 games versus maybe 130, obviously defensive runs saves goes up, like all those numbers go up, right? If he's that consistent. But that's the only reason why I don't have him as a Gold Glove. But I do think he should be in consideration again this year. We'll see.
For sure.
All right, what do you got?
I think to lead off for me, I think one thing that I was really encouraged by in the WBC and watching Pete Crow Armstrong is that early in that tournament, there were a lot of pitchers he were facing that I don't know if it was a combination of they found the scouting report on PCA or if they just didn't have the greatest control, but he was doing a hell of a job of laying off a lot of pitches out of the zone that I think, had kind of been the strategy against him in the second half when he really struggled last season.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my prediction for PCA would be that you're probably not going to see him hit 30 home runs or have as high of a slugging percentage as he did. I'm going to say, though, that he has an on-base percentage of 320 or higher because of what I've been encouraged by seeing him, kind of laying off the pitches that he did in the WBC. He'll take more walks. He's kind of made the adjustment that, he's known as a chaser and pitchers are going to try to get him to swing early and counts at stuff out of the zone. And I think he's really going to take advantage of that.
Okay. You actually kind of led me into my next one. I was going to say PCA will have less than 30 home runs this year.
Yeah. And you know what? He's not someone who like needs to hit 30 home runs on an annual basis. I mean, I would love it if that would be the case. And it's encouraging that he did in what was effectively his first full season in the big leagues. But, I would like him to focus more on like the things that make him a problem for other teams. Like if you're on base and you're using your speed to your advantage, like that honestly might be more effective than, only like trying to shoot for the 30 home runs, but also if it comes with, over 175 strikeouts or 200 strikeouts that could honestly be more effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What do you got next?
I mentioned the Daniel Palencia take that I thought of when we were talking WBC. I really think this is going to be a year where he gets recognized as like one of the elite closers in baseball. I think he will make an all-star team. He'll make the National League all-star team. He's going to finish top. Five is screw it. I'll say it. Top 5 in saves in the National League for Daniel Palencia. And I say that thinking that, so Edwin Diaz, signed with the Dodgers this past offseason. If you look at his career trajectory, I mean, he's at least before Mason Miller got traded to the Padres last year, I think Edwin Diaz has kind of been recognized as like the best closer in the National League. But he is someone who like will alternate good year, bad year, good, or not necessarily bad year, but good year, maybe not so great year. Good year, maybe not so great year. He just came off a really damn good year with the Mets, and I do wonder, A, if he, continues that trend, B, how many games he's really going to be able to save when playing for the Dodgers, who, they do score a lot of runs. They probably won't be in a lot of save situations.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess that's a good point. That's a good way of looking at it. I agree that Palencia will be an all-star this year.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd go as far as saying top 5 in saves, because I think those are really hard to predict. It's just we don't know what it's going to look like. I mean, look at the beginning of the year last year. The Cubs offense was so dominant that there weren't a lot of save opportunities, I think, in the first half. And I don't think they'll replicate that offense again this year. And obviously it came back down to earth in the second half. But I think it's harder to predict, and that's why I wouldn't fully be on board with it. But I do think that he will be an all-star, and I do think that he will be one of the better closers this year in baseball. So I'm with you on that.
For sure. What you got next?
Wow, we're man, this is a boring show already because we're just agreeing with each other on everything. This is not our typical dynamic, folks. I feel like,
right? Yeah, you're more positive than you normally are.
Yeah. Well, here I'm going to go into something negative.
Okay. I got something negative lined up too, so we'll go with that.
Let's see. How do I want to word this? Give me 1 second. I'm going to look something up here first, and then I'm going to give you my projection here. Okay. I'm going to say that Edwin Cabrera will only have 20 starts this season.
Okay.
He has had his first year 7 starts. His next year was 14. 2020. Then he had 20 starts, and 26 starts last year.
Right.
That was a career high. That was a career high for him, and he pitched. He pitched 137 innings last year. So,
yeah, and last
I'm
year,
going to say
at this point probably the best of his career after not really being anything notable previously in his career.
I mean, he had a couple of good years. I mean, his second year, he had, age 24 year. He pitched really well, but he only pitched in 14 games. And then I think the next year, he pitched to the tune of 424, which, not the worst. FIP was 443. I think they're going to have to unlock something with him for him to be the guy that will make it worth trading away, a top prospect like Owen Casey. But I'm going to say that he will pitch in 20 games or less, and he will only pitch 120 innings.
May I ask, do you think that's a factor of the Cubs, when Steele returns, go to a 6-man rotation, or do you think at some point he's going to spend some time on the IL?
I'm going to tell you it's both. So I think what's going to happen this year that you're going to see, and maybe this should be like a greater discussion or a greater hot take here, but I don't know if the Cubs will go to a 6-man rotation. I think what we will see is, and I hate to say this, but I think you will start to see more phantom injuries from the Cubs rotation this year, where they know that they have the depth that, let's say a guy is feeling a little sore or a little arm fatigue, at any point during the year, they can put him on the 10-day IL or 15-day IL, and they can call up any one of these other guys to come up and produce for them from a starting rotation. So, and again, I think this will be a long-term play that will keep them healthier and ready for the playoffs. So I think that while Cabrera has not pitched, more than 130 inning, 35 innings, he's only done it once in his career. I think that they feel like they have a unique opportunity to take it easy on their starters this year and save them for September and October. So I think it will be like hard to tell like if he'll have like a serious injury, but I think that anytime he feels any kind of like smaller injury, they're going to be like, you know what, we're not going to risk it, we're not going to rush it. Take the time off. We'll let you, rest a couple starts, and we can bring up, Javier Assad to fill out a couple starts, or we can toss, Ben Brown into, the starting role for a couple starts. So maybe that's the larger discussion, is that the Cubs will use all of their starters this year and preserve their starters for the playoffs. But I think Edwin Cabrera specifically will be a guy that to be focused on in terms of how much they let him go, what his leash will be.
Interesting. Okay. You know what? That's probably a good way of looking at that. I just wonder if they feel like that's something they can afford to do with if they feel like the guys behind them could have a high enough ceiling to be, 75, 80% of what Edward Cabrera could be. Because I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing him with, his changeup that is in the 90s and his, fastball in the high 90s. And, he's the Cubs pitcher that I don't know if I'm most excited to see, but I'm very excited to see what kind of guy he's like, because it's, they haven't really had a guy like him. And, I think after this season, it's just going to be him and Cade Horton as far as starting pitchers on the active roster now that will be here beyond next season. At least, we'll see what they do with Boyd or Tyone or Shota, but
you got Steele.
Well, Steele too. That's right.
Yeah. All right. What do you got next?
All right. I think another Cubs player who will benefit from the ABS coming into play is Moises Ballesteros, and I think you've seen this in spring training. There were a couple games where he challenged some pitches and looked pretty good doing so. I'm going to say that Moises Ballesteros will get over 25 and a half games at catcher this season. For comparison's sake, Miguel Amaya missed a decent amount of time with his injury last year. And also the time that he was healthy, it did coincide with Carson Kelly being probably the hottest hitter on the Cubs. So his playing time was somewhat limited then. I believe he caught 27 or 28 games last season. So he'll be right in that same territory where Amaya was last year. And I do kind of tied to this same take. I do wonder what kind of production we're going to get from those first two catchers in Amaya and Kelly, with Kelly coming off of a career year after, really only being like a 700 OPS hitter for the majority of his career before then. Ballesteros is the highest upside bat among those three. Not to say Amaya's bad by any means. He was a really good hitter before he got hurt last season. But I do think that the way that baseball has changed the rules, Ballesteros is a guy who the new rules, he's a guy that would benefit from the new rules.
Okay. Love it.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to make this one quick because I think this is twofold.
Okay.
This will be the last year of Ian Happ's tenure as a Cub, and the Cubs will extend Nico Hoerner.
Okay.
And they're going to extend Nico.
Really? That's You're more optimistic on them extending Nico Horner than I am. I do wonder, like, what will happen with Nico. We'll see. The way that could go differently, I think, is, Nico is previously a shortstop, but he's not going to be playing shortstop here for the next, 3 years if he does decide to sign here. And I do wonder if he goes to the open market and sees if some team would be willing to play him at shortstop and pay him like a shortstop. I mean, listen, what you're saying is like, it is what I would prefer. I just wonder, the thing with Nico and with Ian Happ, like, he does seem very loyal to Chicago and the Cubs. And I hope this isn't the case, but I wonder if he like is more willing to come to a number the Cubs will agree to than Nico would.
I can see this going a couple different ways. Maybe I'll drop a really hot take here.
Let's hear it.
The Cubs and Pirates will be in stronger contention towards the All-Star break, where the Pirates might take a little bit more of an aggressive approach, and they will trade for Ian Happ with the hopes of re-signing him in the offseason to a long-term deal to bring him home to Pittsburgh. The Cubs will move on from him because they don't want to pay him, and they will get a young arm or reliever to ready them for the playoffs in a very weird situation where both teams, where maybe the Pirates are kind of like on the cusp of a wild card spot and the Cubs are just leading the division, but maybe the Pirates push in a little bit more and they don't have to pay as high a price right now because it will be a rental. The Cubs will feel like they're in a good spot where maybe they can move Matt Shaw to left. Seya will be back from injury, or they have Dylan Carlson maybe has a good year that they can move him out to left field, and they feel like they have enough outfielder guys, or maybe they pick up another outfielder from the Pirates, like just a bench guy. But I don't know. I don't know why I feel like that can happen, but I feel like that could be interesting.
Okay.
An in-division trade where both teams maybe benefit.
I don't know that you see those type of trades made within the division. I mean, granted, the Cubs and Pirates did make a move last year when they got the Taylor Rogers trade.
Yeah, and then you also had the Aramis Ramirez and
that's
Randall Simon trade.
That's 20-something years ago, though.
I'm just saying it could happen. Hey, we traded with the White Sox for Quintana. I mean, crazier things have happened.
Yeah, we'll see. It just when trades within the division happen, it definitely feels like the directions those two teams are going are often the opposite.
Yeah, that's true.
That one team is rebuilding, one team is trying to compete. I mean, there's no love lost for me with Ian Happ, so I would love if this sort of thing would happen.
I'm just trying to make a bold prediction here that surprises everybody.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's going to come true. I'm just saying I can see a world. Do you have any more?
I guess this is one I'm going to hate, and it is negative.
Okay.
Maybe I don't know how hot of a take this is as far as just basically being like a true statement that we may have to lower our expectations for Michael Busch coming off the year he had last year if he's going to face as many lefties as he does, and coming off of 2 straight years where Craig kind of sheltered him away from lefties as much as he did.
Okay.
I mean, we'll see. He had his moments against left-handed pitchers last season, and that kind of just contributed towards. Yeah, I like I'm not. I could see a world where what were his numbers last year? He was like an 840-ish OPS, I think. Like if he's around 866 OPS he had last year. If he could stay around like 830, 820 even maybe, I'd find that to be acceptable from him, knowing that this is a lot more, the training wheels against lefties are off for him now.
Okay. All right, let's do one more so we can move on. Okay. Justin Steele, Cade Horton, and Edward Cabrera will be the top 3 starters for the Cubs during the playoffs in their run.
Okay. I mean, that would probably be the top 3 I'd go with if all 3 were healthy right now.
Yeah, and I won't say which order just because I don't know, who the opponent is and how they would stack up, right? And, home field advantage, all that stuff matters,
sure.
But
yeah. It's funny too. Like, this is a big reason why I thought the Cubs would beat the Padres last year, even without Cade Horton. Like, they were a team that really struggled to hit left-handed pitching. And, with Boyd and Shota going the first 2 games, I thought that they'd actually sweep that series. Didn't wind up being the case, but they did wind up winning it. But still, yeah, it does very much depend on who the opponent is.
Yep.
And, how they do against handedness of pitchers. All right. Yeah.
What's your last one?
If you have one. I didn't, but I did just think of one right now, and I brought it up. I brought it up a little bit when just talking about the roster. I get the feeling that Caleb Thielbar this year might wind up being like what Ryan Presley was last year.
Ooh,
in that he maybe struggles so bad that he gets cut midseason.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. That's almost as bold as my Hosmer take a few years back, if you recall.
I don't remember your Hosmer take.
That he'd be cut by June.
Wait, no, you said that about Justin Turner.
Oh, was it Hosmer? Turner, that's right.
Yes,
and that was Turner I was wrong about that. I was wrong about that. Well, probably should have been right about that, but they loved his leadership too much.
They loved him shaking his nuts in the dugout. Yes.
All right. League-wide predictions. Let's pick division winners for this year. And I know we're kind of running over here, so maybe we could just kind of go really quick down. And if you want to share maybe your last, do you want to do last place? Like who you think finishes in last place in every division?
We can go full order if you want. Yeah.
Okay. Let's do AL East first. Who do you got winning the AL East?
AL East.
This is also, by the way, for everybody watching, I'm sorry, I just threw this up here. This is Pagoda's projections that are updated as of 3/23. So this is not, this is barring obviously maybe anything that happens the rest of spring training, but this is where things stand as is right now. So all right,
there's only one game of spring training left after today.
Yeah.
I don't think much can happen. All right, AL East. Toronto is projected as the favorite. They won the AL East last season. I think I'm going to go with Toronto again. They had a very aggressive offseason with getting, Dylan Cease, who's the other Japanese guy, Okamoto. They got, did lose Bo Bichette, but Bo Bichette was coming off of a little bit of a, not even a down year, but like a year where like they kind of stopped trusting him as a shortstop. So yeah, I think Toronto wins the AL East. I think the order you have here, I think I maybe flip Baltimore and Boston. I think Baltimore finishes third, Yankees second, Boston fourth, and then the Rays bringing up the rear there.
All right, so you got the Rays last.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to say Toronto wins the division, and I will say that last place will also be Tampa Bay. I agree. Toronto did a lot in the offseason to get back to the World Series, hopefully again for them. They obviously literally came up inches shy of winning the World Series.
Jeez. Take a secondary lead, IKF. Come on.
But yeah, I mean, they did a lot, and I think their rotation looks really strong. And I think their lineup is still pretty formidable as well. So I agree. All right, AL Central.
AL Central, they have Kansas City pretty ranked high. And you know what? Kansas City may be somewhat good this season. I think I'd still lean towards Detroit being the division winner there. They probably have like the best balance between pitching and offense of any team in that division. I think Cleveland has really good pitching, but outside of Jose Ramirez and Steven Kwan, their lineup isn't all that great. Same could probably be said for Kansas City outside of Bobby Witt. So I'll go Detroit. I'll say Kansas City. Kansas City finishes second because they did have some pitchers that missed pretty significant time last season. That if they stay healthy, they could be better.
Who do you got in last place?
I'm, as we mentioned pre-show, I am going to say the Minnesota Twins, with the White Sox actually finishing fourth in that division.
I agree. I mean, this is something that we talked about at the beginning of the show, so our White Sox friend and fam will appreciate this. But I think the Sox are going to be better than what what we all may think. I think they've got some young prospects that can be really fun. You could see at the end of last year they were playing some fun baseball. You got Colson Montgomery, who had a pretty big second half. I think they could be exciting. But I'm with you. I'm going to say Detroit wins the division, and Minnesota will finish in last.
Speaking of which, did you see who the White Sox just signed today, by the way?
I did not.
A cult hero of the 2025 Cubs, the big pumper, Reese McGuire.
Oh, okay.
Outside. Yeah, so.
All right, there we go.
Have some extra security in those parking lots on the south side.
Say, the car baiter. All right. Yeah. Who do you got for the AL West? Who do you have in first and who do you have in last?
Seattle is projected to be on top there. That sounds about right. Houston, I kind of in the same boat as like Kansas City, that like they had a lot of injuries last year that maybe prevented them from being as good. I guess I could see them second. Third and fourth is going to be tough because the A's, like sneaky, had a lot of good hitters last year that on a team that didn't do all that great, but like, Nick Kurtz and Shea Langoliers and Brent Rooker, like that's a really damn good offense that they have. Jacob Wilson too. Screw it. A's are going to be third. I'm going to say the Rangers fourth, and then Angels last, which feels so bad for Mike Trout.
Wow. Okay. Oh man, I am going to say that. I will say Seattle wins the division. I agree with you as well with Pagoda. I think their rotation is still just deep. They've got a deep rotation. The pitching is always solid.
They came as close to beating the Blue Jays as the Blue Jays did to beating the Dodgers, honestly.
Yeah. And when you said you had the Angels in last, was that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I also have the Angels in last place.
Yeah.
All right.
They may be the worst run organization in baseball, which there are a lot of bad run organization in baseball, but like that's a shit show out there.
All right. So you've got Toronto, you've got Detroit, and then you've got Seattle winning the division. Who do you have as your AL wildcard teams?
All right. I think I'm going to say Yankees. I don't know the particular order that they're going to be in, but I'll say the Yankees. They'll get Garrett Cole back. They have Max Fried, obviously the high-powered lineup they do with Judge and Bellinger and everyone. Man, picking someone outside. You know what? I'll say two come from the East, and I'm going to say Baltimore makes it as a wild card team.
Baltimore, they did do a lot in the offseason this year. And they might have a bounce back here.
I like the pickup of Pete Alonso for them. They had some pitchers that actually like stepped up. And if you look at what they did after changing managers last year, they actually were kind of good. It was just they did it so late in the season after starting so bad that they didn't really have enough time to really make up for all the ground they lost. And then, oh man, I'll say the last wild card. Well, the last available wild card. Again, not in any particular order. I'll go Kansas City. I think this will be a big year for Bobby Witt.
Wow. Okay.
They may have at least a left side of the infield that's like right on par with the Cubs because Maikel Garcia just came off of being the MVP of the WBC.
Right. I have Toronto, Detroit, Seattle with you. I agree. I've got the Yankees in Baltimore as well. I'm going to throw in a shocker here. I'm going to say Texas has a bounce back year this year. We got Jacob deGrom coming back, maybe pitching a little bit more games than he did over the last year or two. I think that the offense still can be pretty good. I know that they traded trying to blank. Was it Simeon or
Simeon to the Mets?
Simeon, yeah. They traded him to the Mets.
Brandon Nimmo, yep.
For Nimmo, I think that'll still be a pretty good fit for them.
If you could guarantee me that Corey Seager could stay healthy for a full season, I'd be on board with you. He's had so much trouble doing so over the last few years since they won the World Series.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna throw Texas in that mix. All right. Let's go to the NL East, and let's try to go quick because I know we're already coming up against time here. But
that's fine.
You've got the NL East has got Atlanta projected to win the division. Who do you got?
Braves will be improved from last year. It was a pretty injury-riddled season for them, but I think I'm gonna go with the Phillies to win the NL East. I still think they're the best team in that division, and I don't know. It's a lot of question marks with every trailing team behind them. Although there's one other team I will probably pick as a wild card. I'll just put it this way, not to give anything away. Washington will be in last, but we'll save what the middle three teams do for playoff predictions.
Okay, cool. So you've got. Who did you have? You had the Philly?
Philly winning the division, yeah.
And then last will be?
Washington.
All right. I've got Atlanta winning the division. I think that they were an anomaly last year where they had a ton of guys on the IL. I think, Chris Sale comes back. I think Acuna will obviously play a healthier year this year. And that guy is just a monster. So I'm going to say Atlanta, and then I'm going to say that I'm going to say Miami finishes in last. I think that Washington will actually be a little bit more improved this year with some of the young players. So I don't know. I feel like Washington might surprise a little bit. I don't think they're going to be great by any means, but I think Miami just might take another step back.
For sure.
All right, NL Central. Actually, let's do NL West first.
Save NL Central for last. Yeah. Exactly.
NL West. Who do you got in the NL West?
It's obvious who's going to win this division. It'll be the Dodgers again, and they'll probably. Maybe I shouldn't say this as much because they didn't have as strong of a regular season last season, and I think they are kind of in this mode where they don't necessarily. I think as long as they win the division, they're not too concerned by how far they do. They probably have the talent to win well over 100 games, but I think they kind of realize that what's more important and to save their best baseball for October. I think that second, I think I agree with this. I think I go San Francisco second, San Diego third. I think San Diego takes a huge step back after losing Cease and everything that has gone wrong with, their ownership situation is up in the air. I think they're kind of in a similar boat to where the Cubs were in say 2019.
Okay.
Agree with Arizona finishing fourth. I wish that team would be better because they have really tried hard to collect a lot of talent with going out and getting Corbin Burns. Who knows when he'll be back?
Yep.
And Corbin Carroll is going to be out for a significant portion of the season to start the year. It does. I feel bad for them because they're trying to compete, and it's, the injury bug has just bit them really hard. And then obviously Colorado would be one of the worst teams in baseball. They'll be last in that division.
I've got LA winning the division and Colorado in last, so I think that one's pretty easy. All right. NL Central.
NL Central. This will be fun. We've gone into the show the last 2 years predicting the Cubs to win the NL Central, and they didn't do it either year. Thankfully, the Cubs were a playoff team last year, but then playoffs, they come up short to the Brewers once again. The Brewers, they trade away Freddie Peralta. They trade away Caleb Durbin and Isaac Collins, two guys who got Rookie of the Year consideration. It seems like every time the Brewers make one of these trades where they sell off guys, not only does it work out, but it works out amazing for them, and it works out immediately for them. Think of the Corbin Burns trade from a few years ago. At some point, that tide has to turn. And call me a homer, call me a meatball, call me the ultimate optimist. Go Cubs, go! They're winning the division. I got the Brewers finishing second. I'm going to flip-flop on third and fourth on what they have here. I think Cincinnati is still pretty good. They have really damn good pitching. Maybe their offense isn't all that great, but could get a huge step up from Elly De La Cruz this year. I think the Pirates take a step up. I think the Cardinals finish in last, which is awesome after so many years of them finishing first and the Cubs being in last.
Yeah, and they got them losing almost 100 games on Pagoda. See, I'm going to go with, I've been pretty pessimistic on the Cubs winning the division, in the past. I think this year, I think the lineup is pretty good. I feel really strongly and really great about their pitching and their depth of pitching. That gives me a lot of hope that they can win a lot of baseball games because of that. So I'm going to say that they win the division this year, and St. Louis finishes in last. So you've got Philly, Chicago, and LA as your division winners. Who are your wild card teams?
My wild card teams, I think the Mets get it together this year, and they don't choke it away this year, and they become one of the wild card teams.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not have Philly. I'm sorry. I had Atlanta. Sorry.
Oh, you had it? You had Atlanta? Okay.
I had Atlanta. Yep. So you have the Mets, the wild card team. Got it.
Yeah. I'll go Atlanta as one of them. Actually, you know what? Here. All three of my wild cards are going to come from the NL East. It'll be the Mets. It'll be the Braves. I think you picked them in last. I think the Marlins take a huge step up this year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I think they'll get a fully healthy year of Sandy Alcantara. Kyle Stowers look really good for them. They actually finished not terrible last year. I think they won like 79 games.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, I think the best case scenario for that Cabrera and Owen Casey trade is that it's a win-win. Because I think that Owen Casey playing every day for them is I could see him having the same season for them that Kyle Stowers had last season.
Okay. Got it. All right. So you've got the NL East actually dominating this year. I'm going to say, so I've got Atlanta, Chicago, LA as the division winners. I'm going to agree that the Mets are a wild card team this year. And then I will say I'm going to say Milwaukee. I think they just continue to find ways to win. And I don't know if they'll win the division or not.
They do, yeah.
But they do find ways to just, to your point, they make these trades and they continue to flourish. I think they find a way to win. So I'm going to say New York, Milwaukee. And then I'm going to say Man, I really am trying to find a way to say that the Phillies don't make the playoffs this year because I think they take a step back. But
It's
I mean,
possible. I mean, a
just
lot of their hitters are kind of getting up there now.
yeah, they're getting older. I mean,
Who knows if they see Wheeler this year after the injury he had last year?
I'm gonna say San Francisco.
San Francisco. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw in there. I've got two wild card teams that are gonna be because I feel like there's always a team that jumps up and surprises you. You know what I mean? Every year there's always a team that surprises you and gets into the playoffs somehow where nobody predicts them to make the playoffs. So I'm gonna try to use that logic to pick two teams, and I'm gonna say San Francisco and Texas will be my two playoff teams that are surprises this year.
Okay. San Francisco is a weird one to me. They feel like the most like median team in all of baseball, but that's you never know.
Sometimes you never know.
Yeah. I mean, Buster Posey running the show now. New manager, Tony, the college guy from Tennessee. So all right.
All right, let's kind of breeze through this. We've got right here, we've got 2027 outlook. What does this mean, and does 2026 mean more to you? And we all know that the potential collective bargaining agreement is going to come to an end after the offseason in 2026. It sounds like there will be a strike just from all the reports that are coming out. It doesn't sound like the owners and players are close to any kind of agreement on a lot of issues here. Whether that's salary, whether that's, broadcasting, whether that's, obviously they're always looking at AAA players and minor league players, making sure that they're getting paid appropriately. But it looks like there's going to be a work stoppage. So knowing that is potentially on the horizon, do you think that this year means more to you? Because again, for the Cubs, this is the last year of Ian Happ. This is potentially the last year of Nico Horner. Seiya Suzuki's coming towards the end of his deal very shortly too. Some of these core guys that, we have seen over the last few years may not be in Cub uniforms after this year. And that's if the season starts on time.
Right.
But with that being said, do you think it means more? Do you think like they have to push their chips in a little bit more this year, especially at the trade deadline, if they're leading the division, if they look like true, like World Series contenders? Do you think this is a year that they have to push chips in and go and make like a Chapman-like trade because 2027 may not happen?
Wow. Chapman-like trade would be interesting. I mean, the take I had on Palencia may, go against that because I think he's going to be one of the better closers in baseball.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that they don't.
Sure.
They could get a setup guy or something, or a big bat, but
or maybe the concern would be more in the rotation, and that's who they try and target. I think you saw it maybe with the Casey and Cabrera trade that like Owen Casey, if he had stayed with the Cubs this season, would probably not be an everyday player. That might not be the case now with Seiya Suzuki on the injured list. He probably would have been the everyday right fielder. But with Seiya Suzuki active, that probably wasn't going to be the case. I think that's maybe the type of move that another one like that, where it's a high ranking position player that they maybe, say, hey, we don't want to lose a year. We don't want to have you in the system here where you're not going to play in all of 2027 and then potentially have you regress in 2028 as a result of it. I guess the thing that I think they'll be more aggressive with is getting prospects up who, maybe you weren't so aggressive with at this point last year. But I think you'll see a Jackson Wiggins, we talked about a right-handed option to platoon with Michael Bush. If he really struggles against left-handed pitching, maybe they call up a Jonathan Long. You know, so I think that like that's probably more likely.
Okay.
I think just taking a macro view of this, it'll be a year where, like, I think the Cubs are going to be good at you know, me predicting that they'll win the division. I do think it's going to be a year where I maybe won't be as frustrated if they come up short, because knowing that this is potentially going to be the last portion of baseball I'm going to see with, you know, a year off after that, you know, I won't be as frustrated if they come up short as I would be if they had in previous years.
Okay. I think that's an interesting take. I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
I can agree with that. I think this is a year where I don't know if it's a year that they will go all in. I think like they will continue to look to make strategic moves that sets them up for years after next. But I think what will be really interesting is that, you know, we've seen over the last like couple of years that if the Cubs are looking to make trades for guys, they want control, right? They're not trading for like these rental players. They're looking for longer term control, like an Edward Cabrera, right? There was a big reason why for him is that he had control. I don't know. I think it's going to be, I don't know if they'll go all in. And I think they maybe have enough pieces where they don't have to necessarily. And I think your point on the starting pitching would be interesting if they were to make that move. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this team will ever go all in again, to be honest with you. So, but I do think that this has to be a year that they really do something big, because man, it worries me after this year, like how different this team will look, you know, even after the strike.
That's a good point. I do feel like the fact that they have so much money coming off the books after this season, though, you know, the big thing that everyone is kind of concerned with the strike is that there will be a salary cap in baseball. The Cubs would probably be, I mean, if that is the case, the Cubs would probably be one of the better positioned teams to kind of scavenge teams that are over the cap at that point and get, you know, some higher upside players with all the guys they have coming off. If they don't re-sign a Happ or a Suzuki, potentially even Nico, we'll see. I hope that's not the case. But, you know, there's a world where they become a spender to this hypothetical cap in a way where, you know, teams that have spent over the cap need to somehow get under it now.
I don't think there's going to be a cap. I don't see a world where the players will sign off on that, especially knowing how much teams are worth and how much owners are making. I just don't see a world where they would ever approve that.
I suppose that the one thing I could see is like all the leagues, baseball is the one sport where like being a big market team really matters. And all the other leagues with caps, you know, like at least until this past season, like the most dominant team in football had been the Kansas City Chiefs. That's a small, you know, the Royals are a small market team. You know, the Steelers are always good, but the Pirates are always bad. And you know, the Penguins are always good. The Pirates are always bad. You know, it always seems like in the cap leagues, the markets are not really the driving force behind who signs the star players as much as it is like who has the room to sign those star players. And I don't know how much pull some of those small market owners will have, but I know that will be a point that they're probably going to be trying to drive home a lot.
Okay. I guess we'll have to see in 2027, but all right. let's wrap up here. I know we've got our flying the W's and taking the L's.
Hello? You play to win the game.
Addison is next. Doors open on the left at Addison.
I say one thing. Go. Let's go. That's a W. That's E1. That's E1. That's a W.
It is a L7 winning.
All right. I've only got one W, one L.
Same here.
Okay, cool. I'll start off with my W real quick. Just want to give a shout out. This weekend, I was able to go to New Orleans. I was in New Orleans for the NOLA Bourbon Festival, which I was invited to by a good friend. I wanted to shout out a buddy of mine, Brandon, for hooking that up. That was super great. He works for Bardstown Bourbon Company, which I don't know if you knew this. They are owned by the Pritzkers Group. So a little bit of Illinois connect there, but amazing whiskey, super great people that work for that company, that I've been able to meet and, partner with. They've, had me on their media list, recently, which has been really cool. I've been able to review some of their stuff, but yeah, it was such a great time. Shout out to everybody in New Orleans, all the wonderful whiskey brands that were able to bring their amazing profiles, new products, exciting things that were coming through. And if anybody is into whiskey that doesn't know, you can see here my IG handle is the Dram Daddy on Instagram. I do whiskey content. Yeah, follow along for more.
Great stuff. Follow him on Instagram because it's really good. Really good viral videos that he's making.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Who do you got as your W?
All right, my W. I maybe could have expanded a little bit more on this when we were doing league-wide predictions, but I'll give a W to. This is going to sound weird, but it's a W for the Pirates, because they
don't get a lot of those, so
they don't. They'll probably get a little more this year, I think. They're an improved team, and they made it kind of a tough choice this spring training, actually, in choosing not to bring back Andrew McCutchen. It had been a long time, guy for them, two different stints with the Pirates. They improved the team pretty greatly with Ryan O'Hearn and Brandon Lau. I think they're actually serious about winning, and probably the move that solidifies it is that they chose not to bring back Andrew McCutchen. I feel like, not to say he's a bad player at this point in his career, but it's like they're finally getting away from, trying to draw fans in because we have this guy who was here when we were good last, that we're actually like trying to promote our own team now. And, it's sad that like he couldn't be a part of that, but at the same time, he does also like kind of represent the era of the past. I kind of equate him a little bit to like, not that I necessarily agree with this, but like, how the Blackhawks have kind of shied away from any effort to bring back Jonathan Taves or Patrick Kane in this new, Connor Bedard era. A little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. My L. I don't know how to put this because I want to be politically correct and I don't want to, get, overly political either. Maybe I'll just do it total because I don't give a shit either side.
Hey, end of last year, I had to get political with the whole Matt Shaw thing. So
okay.
Go for it.
I'm giving my L to the U.S. government. And that feels like a really easy thing to say, but I'm going to be specific. They need to get their shit together because the stuff that is going on with TSA right now has been unbelievably out of control. And again, in the grand scheme of things, I know it's an inconvenience, but I think like there's so many people that are affected by this, whether they're trying to get home, maybe there's, I'm fortunate because I was flying this past weekend for fun. But
Right.
I think people that are trying to get home because maybe they lost a family member, or they're trying to see a sick family member, they need to get back for work, to provide for their families and themselves, whatever the reason is that people are flying. I was in New Orleans, like I said, over the weekend. Sunday morning, I was told that, the airport was a mess and like I needed to get there early. My flight was 7 a.m. They told me, I said, well, if I got there at 5, would that be enough time, 2 hours early? They told me no, that I needed to get there earlier. I got to the airport at 4:15 in the morning. And this was after a Saturday night that I was up and at a bourbon fest. So I was running on about 3 hours of sleep, which, I probably should have stayed awake, to be honest with you, but got to the airport at 4:15. I didn't get to and through security until 6:42.
Oh man, they're already boarding at that time. Jeez.
My flight boarded at 6:20 and it stopped boarding at 6:45, meaning I had literally 3 to 4 minutes to get from the end of security to my gate at the airport. Now, thankfully, my gate was the third gate in the concourse, so it was really close. I walked up with 2 minutes to spare before they closed the door.
Wow.
Out of breath, sweating. The flight was full when I booked it. It was maybe about a fifth full, meaning that 4/5 of that flight had missed their flight.
Oh man.
So, TSA, as you know, is, been understaffed. There are members that are not getting paid because of the government shutdown that happened earlier this year. Everything's all backed up right now. O'Hare has been crazy, with long lines. We just saw yesterday there was a plane crash, at LaGuardia, that I think, and I don't know for sure, but it sounds like it may have been caused from staffing shortages or untrained people or whatever the case is, right? Like somebody made a mistake, and I'm not sure the reason, but it just feels like there's a lot of stuff going on with TSA. And again, I don't care who you vote for. I don't care political sides. They're both working in opposition when it comes to stuff like this. They need to work for the American people. And I really don't care what either side is trying to fight for, or, the bills that they're trying to force onto each other. Get this shit figured out. Pay these TSA agents, get them to work. They're busting their ass. I felt so bad for so many of them that were working so hard to try to work through. You got to think there was 40 flights in the morning that day on Sunday morning, which means there's, about maybe 100 to 200 seats per plane, depending on the size of the planes. I mean, you're looking at 4,000 to 8,000 people. That line, 2.5 hours to get from, and it started outside, Mike. We were in the parking garage that started outside and got finally to the inside of the security, like through security. So it was insane. And yeah, big L. And I don't necessarily want to give it on NOLA's airport completely, because I don't know if it was through any fault of their own, but every airport's been affected a little bit differently, but it's happening across the country, and it's got to stop, man. This is nuts.
Yeah, it is crazy when, we've cut as much as we have in this previous administration, that, things like, it can't be surprised when things like this happen. It's been a huge black mark, and I couldn't agree with you more on that.
Yep. All right, who do you got as your L?
I had it and I'm blanking on it. I don't know. I'm trying to stay positive today. I don't have an L.
Hey, I'm for it, man.
For sure.
We could always use more positivity in our life.
Right.
All right, really quickly before we end here, opening weekend predictions. So we're only going to cover the opening weekend, correct? The three games against Washington.
Yeah.
So it'll be Thursday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yep. Day off in the middle on Friday. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What do you got?
Well, I mean, look, Washington, I predicted them to be in last this season. Cubs, I think last season did pretty damn well against them. And they don't have Mackenzie Gore as they previously did, who was maybe the one pitcher that you kind of feared there.
Yep.
Do we know the pitching matchups yet for what it's going to be? I know
let's
Matthew Boyd and Cade Cavalli on opening day. I don't know if we know anything beyond that.
I don't think so. I don't see anything.
I gotcha. I think any way you go, it shouldn't be too hard, even without Seiya Suzuki. I'm going to say Cubs sweep the Nationals.
Yeah, no starts are the Cubs and Washington are one of a handful of teams that have not named their starters through the weekend. So you are right. It's Boyd against Cavalli to start opening day. I'm going to agree with you. Cubs sweep to start the year. They start the year 3-0.
Yeah, they could. I mean, hell, I know we're only doing this week. There's a possibility they could start maybe 6-0.
Okay.
They start off very soft in this late March, early April stretch of their schedule. It does get harder.
The Angels right after.
Yeah, it does get harder as the month goes on, though.
You got the Guardians, which Guardians usually start off pretty slow.
Right.
You've got Tampa Bay right after that.
I guess it will be a pretty eventful start to the season for them because they have their own opening day home opener. They'll be part of the Guardians home opener, and they'll be part of the Rays home opener, which will be the first game back at Tropicana after spending all of last year at the Yankees spring training stadium. So,
man, I feel like April's lining up to be like pretty well in their favor until they get to the 24th of April when they face the Dodgers. But I mean, they start off the year playing Washington, the Angels, Tampa Bay, Cleveland, the Pirates, the Mets, and the Phillies, and then they get to LA. So they play the Phillies a lot in April. So I think they might be done with the Phillies after April, to be honest. I didn't look that far, but there's a lot of games that they're playing against Philly pretty early in the year.
For sure. You know what? Okay, I just thought of, now that we're going into the schedule, I just think of one L, and it's going to be for me. It's going to be for me. The L is going to me. I tweeted out during some of these games that Shota Imanaga struggled that I would really like it if he could avoid pitching against the Angels. The Angels were, I think, 4th or 5th in the majors in home runs last season. And then everyone else around the Cubs that they play like in that stretch of games was like bottom half of the league and wasn't really too concerned with that, especially the games, in Chicago in cold weather, in Cleveland in cold weather.
Yep.
But then he goes out against the Angels and has probably his best start of the spring. And that was, again, against most of their everyday line. And I also didn't realize that the guy who led them, Ward, had now been traded. He's now with Baltimore. So L to me for that take. Sorry, Shota. I should have respected you more. Hopefully a bounce back year for you this year. All
right. Love it. All right, folks. I know we ran a little bit long, and if you haven't already switched over, switch over to hear our big brothers over at the Chicago Sports Bums. They're currently
tune in 8:30. 8:30.
Yeah, they're
start.
8:30. Okay, yeah. So all right, so they'll be able to switch over right now. So about 10 minutes. But always great jumping on, Mike. Next week, just quick recap here. Monday I will not be on the show. Mike maybe looking for a fill-in for me. I'll be out on assignment. I'm actually going to be in Guatemala doing some volunteer work, so that will be really fun to do. And I will be back the week after, and actually the week after I might be on the road again. I think about it, but these next few weeks, Mike, are crazy for me. I've got 6 weeks of travel over the last 8 weeks, beginning of March, ending of April, but after that, I really look like I will be settling down a lot. So I will be hopefully having a little bit more of a consistent schedule with less work travel, which will be really exciting for me.
That's awesome. Hey, good for you doing this volunteer work there. That's very commendable of you.
Yeah, man, it'll be a lot of fun. It's through my company, which I'm super excited about. It's part of our anniversary package. I just hit 7 years with my company, and that was the anniversary gift. So That was back in October. So yeah, it's been great. Which thankful to work for a good company that does good stuff in the world.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, awesome. Well, appreciate y'all jumping on. We're super excited for the Cubs to kick it off here on Thursday. And again, if you've got Hulu TV, you can now have Marquee Network, or you could get it on Xfinity if you get that upgraded package, or you could just buy it outright from the app. But
and also Prime Video too.
That's right. You could get it through Prime Video, which I think you have to buy a package for, but I'm not 100% sure or not. But either way, we are excited for Cubs baseball to be back. This is the best time of the year. It's baseball season. This is, where Mike and I thrive. So get ready for some more shows this year. We're super excited to hopefully create some more consistency. We are excited for our Cubbies to hopefully win the NL Central this year, maybe make some waves. And I think, since we didn't get a chance to do it on this show, Mike, maybe on the next show, we could make our predictions of how the playoff format will look like, since we've already made our division and wild card winners.
Yeah, we'll keep that in mind then. That works for me.
Awesome.
All
right.
Hope to see a lot of you guys on Thursday out in the bleachers or at some of the bars around on Twitter if you want to hang out. Always looking to make new friends and spread the word about this podcast. So
yeah, man.
Thank you all
Baseball's
for tuning
starting.
in.
Tarps off and nips
off,
out.
Baby.
Tarps out. Tarps off and nips out. That's how Mike does it on opening day. So appreciate it, folks. We'll see you next time.
See you.